Well, I'm Martin Bandyke. I am thrilled and delighted to have in studio with us Philip Holman from the University of Michigan. Now, he is the U of M Library's Film Studies Field Librarian, and Philip also the curator for the Screen Arts Mavericks and Makers collections, which are part of the U of M Library's special collections. And man, these are special collections indeed, collections of some of the greatest filmmakers who have ever lived. Philip Holman, welcome to 1071. How are you, my friend?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Good to have you down here, Philip. And you brought with you some incredible artifacts that at one time used to belong to one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, Orson Welles, that are newly in the collection at U of M. Give us an overview of what you do and some of the filmmakers whose archives are here at the U of M.
Well, I'd be happy to. So we have a wonderful assortment of materials. Now, these are not the actual films themselves. These are paper-based materials that have generated from the productions and personal lives of some really wonderful filmmakers. So included in this group are Robert Altman, John Sayles, Alan Rudolph, Nancy Savoca, and a gentleman named Ira Deutschman, who will be celebrated in a few weeks at the Cinetopia Film Festival.
Yeah, tell us more about Ira. I've talked about Ira with Russ Collins of the Michigan Theater,
right.
But tell us more about Ira.
Ira's fascinating. He's not a household name, and yet he has a really important role. And I think of him as kind of the thread that links all of this archive together. He did not work with Orson Welles, but he did work with all the other people. And his job is to interest people in the films and bring them into the theater. So it's a tricky role to kind of convince people quickly that they want to see a movie and then actually lure them into the seat. So he jokes about that his role is to put butts in seats.
Yes. Oh, yeah. A crucial role.
Exactly.
It really is. Yes.
I mean, because without that, a filmmaker can't make another movie often. So, but this collection is growing. We've been working on it for about 12 years now. And so over little by little, every few years we acquire a new person. And I think what we do that's different, we're not just interested in collecting for the sake of it, but rather how can we use this material for teaching purposes specifically. So all of these people we incorporate into our curriculum at the University of Michigan. And then one of the things we've done is to allow students, undergraduate students, to have access to the archive. So they work with it, they try to get an understanding of the films, the filmmaker, and then they do an exhibit. Oh. So at the end of the term, instead of writing a typical term paper, they put on an exhibition based on what they found in the archive. And it's been really successful. I have to say it's been, for me personally, incredibly rewarding. And then in the meantime, I get to meet all these people, so I was very good friends with Catherine Altman. Unfortunately, she passed away last year, but we would text every day, and she just was so wonderful.
Robert's widow?
Robert's widow,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And she was so dedicated to continuing his legacy, to trying to work and make sure that people understand what goes on in the process. And I think what's so fascinating is some of these people have a reputation, certainly Welles does, of kind of having this meteoric rise, Citizen Kane, right?
First film that he made.
Exactly. And I mean, obviously he had worked on the stage, the New York stage, and in radio, so he had tremendous background already, even though he was just 25, but he had worked for many, many years as a director. But yet that was a different medium. So to transfer from the stage or radio into film and to do it so confidently was incredible. But yet, the story is that he then had this fall after that, and basically the rest of his career was just selling wine. I think that's how people sort of think of him. Yeah. But the archive really gives a different point of view. It really gives what was going on all throughout this year. And what's really fascinating about this new material is it covers a period that scholars really haven't looked at all that much. It's the period from the 50s into the mid to late 60s. He was living primarily in Europe at the time. He was married to an Italian actress, Paula Mora, and he was writing and working constantly. So we have alone something like 50 scripts that he made in this 15-year period. I mean, that's incredible, and he was just working. Now, some of them got made.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. 50? Yeah,
yeah.
How many of these actually got produced and filmed?
Some got made, but many didn't. And so what this archive will do is sort of fill in these gaps. So give people an understanding of what was going on, that we don't actually see, And then it also has some amazing personal letters and pictures as well. So what's really fascinating are these early letters that he kept that was actually sent to his guardian. So his parents both died relatively young in his life. And he had this man named Dr. Bernstein, who he called Dada. And so they corresponded regularly, and so there's a huge treasure trove of these letters that reveal Wells as a teenager and as a young man. And I showed you earlier, I brought in a diary that he started when he was, I think, 16. On his first trip to Europe, he went to Ireland and went all across the country and, drew these amazing sketches.
And, it was really. I see how drawing after drawing in this diary, really nicely done. And it was this completely spine tingling. Thank you for letting me flip through the diary that belonged to Orson Welles, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Something you don't normally get a chance to do on a daily basis. Appreciate that. Our guest this morning again is Philip Hallman, University of Michigan Film Studies field librarian. So all of these archives are housed in which of the libraries on campus, Philip?
It's important that to stress that they're part of Special Collections Library, which is one of the many libraries at the University of Michigan. Special Collections Library is located in the Hatcher Graduate Library. And actually, we're a little bit in transition. So later this fall, the reading room will open on the 6th floor of the library. Presently, the reading room is in the Shapiro Undergraduate Library.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, people cannot just drop in.
Right, can't just walk in and say, I want to look at that Orson Welles diary that Martin was talking about this morning.
I'm afraid we can't do that, and you'll stress out my colleagues, so please don't do that.
All right.
But we do have a website, and you have to register. I mean, you have to keep in mind, this is valuable material. It's one of a kind. Yeah. So, and this is just one of many, many things at the University of Michigan. I mean, we have tremendous resources there, that cover the entire history of the world, But this collection, as I said, focuses on filmmaking, and in particular, people who kind of color outside the lines, so to speak. They work in some fashion within the film industry, within the majors, but primarily work outside and have had to fund and distribute their films by themselves.
Altman and Orson Welles, great examples.
Yes, and so that's the focus of this collection. We're not, as I say, not trying to collect everybody, but rather people who kind of keep in this spirit. So.
Yeah, well, I see it, it is called Mavericks and Masters Collection.
Right, yeah.
Now the addition, before we let you run, Philip, all of these additional Orson Welles material, these archives, I've just been reading about these. Where did these come from?
Well, this last batch comes from his daughter, Beatrice. She's been holding on to this material for over 30 years now. He passed away in 85. And so she's been in possession of them. And, I'm sure if you carry things around with you after a while, you kind of get tired of it. And I think she's reached that point. I think she wants to put it all together. And oddly enough, this stuff in Welles' own lifetime was never in one place. So he was a bit of a nomad, and I think he traveled and lived in Europe a lot, but then he lived here in the United States as well. So this has never been in one place at one time in his own lifetime. And so now it is, and that's really wonderful.
Philip, we have to run. I thank you so much for stopping by this morning. It's really been an extraordinary experience to meet you and to look and peruse some of these Orson Welles archives. For people who want to get more information, maybe would like to set up an appointment to see some of this material. What is the website? Is it easy to track down?
LIB for library, lib.umich.edu. And then you can you can, or you could probably Google Wells Archive Michigan or something. You know,
Right.
there are different ways to get to it, but that's the official website.
So LIB for library, lib.umich.edu, and yeah, Google Orson Welles University of Michigan
Right.
Archive. You'll find it, and you will
Yeah.
find Philip Holman, the film studies field librarian
But I
at the
do want to add
University
this,
of Michigan.
this latest material
Yeah.
won't be available for a while. I mean, you know, it does need to be processed and cataloged. So we're talking about 6 months probably before that's available. You're getting a special look today.
I am thrilled. What a pleasure to
All
meet
right.
you, Philip. Thanks
All
for
right. Well,
joining us.
thank you for having me.
Philip Holman on Ann Arbor's 107.1.